Welcome to The Bright Side of 50, the podcast that celebrates life, wisdom, and the vibrant journey that can be ours when we embrace the second half of life. I am your host, Carla Palmer. Together, we will explore the stories, memorable experiences, and the teachable moments that make life after 50 truly incredible. Now, let's get into today's topic, shall we? Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Bright Side of 50 with Carla Palmer. I am so happy, as always, every single week when you tune in, I am happy that you are here. And I'm happy that you are a part of this community on a regular basis, showing up for me, showing up for you to see what I'm talking about each week. What am I talking about this week? I know you're wondering, what is she talking about this week with this title? Yeah, we're talking about dating. It's one of those things where it comes up often, especially when, you're a woman who seems to be outgoing and fun and exciting and you seem to have it all together. It comes up often when you are in conversation with people who love you. Oftentimes they are people who love you and they want to know, are you dating? What's going on with that? Listen. We are out here in these dating streets trying to see what's going on. All right. We're trying to see what's going on, trying to see what's available. Men are doing the same. Right. I'm not going to just make this a one-sided thing that women have it so hard in these dating streets. Everybody has it hard right now in these dating streets, especially in midlife. That's what I'm thinking. Looks like the younger people have it hard, too. But I'm talking about us midlifers right now. All right. So dating has not been super successful for me in the last decade. Yeah, the last decade. I've been single since 2015. And you guys, if you remember that one time I dated a pastor episode, if you haven't listened to it, go back and listen to it. That was my last relationship. That was in 2015. I was dating a pastor who strung me along close to a year, lovingly calling me wifey, with no intentions of ever wifing me up. That was not a great relationship, and it left a pretty nasty taste in my mouth. It didn't completely close me off from dating, though. I healed from that. Probably not 100% if I'm gonna be like 100, but I healed from that and I moved forward and I started, trying to date again some year or two later. But I haven't really had a lot of success. The relationship before that one in 2015 was with, a broke musician who was a cheater. Stayed with that fool for almost 3 years. And that's the story for another day. But we will share that again. Trust me, I promise I will. And I've shared it before, but it's way down the line at the beginning of the episodes when I first started the podcast. So we'll talk about that again. But right now, we're talking about right now, currently. I'm not like jaded, I don't think. I'm open to going out on a date and seeing what might come of that. I'm not on any dating apps. I meet people organically or through a mutual connection here in LA. I like the mutual connections better because it's still a blind going into, but at least you know something about the person and they know something about you because those things have been shared between that mutual friend. But seriously, the dates have not been with bad people. They've actually been decent people. They just haven't yielded much other than a few fun times. No sex, because I've been celibate since 2008. I know, long time, but that's okay. I'm proud of that. Not as a badge, but I'm proud of the fact that I haven't got caught out there, just doing it because the feeling was there. All right. Very intentional. Another conversation for another day. But anyway, these dates have been fun. Some of them have been boring. I'm not going to lie. And then some of them have just been okay. We've been on a few dates and they have mutually faded out. Sometimes you ever wonder why things fade? I mean, you kind of know why you didn't pursue it when it was seeming to fade, or you faded out because it wasn't working out for you. Sometimes I just want to go ask the person, when you stopped calling me, what happened with that? I did that one time. And I don't know if he was completely honest, but he was just like, I don't know. You didn't call me. I didn't call you. He just kind of left it real surface. But I was like, I really want to know. And I was asking at a time when I felt like I could handle the truth. Sometimes we can't handle the truth, but I felt like I could handle the truth at that time. But he didn't tell me other than, well, you stop calling me. I stopped calling you. Whatever. But I just wonder, like, what's happening? Being single for the rest of my life is certainly not where I saw myself. When I was younger, I always saw myself getting married, having a lot of kids. I always wanted 4 kids. I come up from a 2-parent home with 4 of us kids. I have 3 siblings. But that's what I always wanted. But at this point, 9 years being single, I've been building my career. That's kind of been on a slow journey, but it's moving forward. I got my son graduated, and now he's out on his own. And that was a super gratifying, successful feeling for me as a parent. I was super into making sure that baby was going to be okay. And I see he is definitely going to be okay. I've been also building peace in my space. All right. My son moved out in November. I keep saying that because I'm still in disbelief that the baby left. He's not a baby, but he left. So I've been building peace in my space. Even before he left, I still had a very peaceful environment, even as living with a rapper because he's a rap artist. But it was still a peaceful space. It was no drama going on in here. I didn't have company in and out. We just lived life in a really quiet way. I did specifically. And then I've, been doing some traveling and strengthening the relationships that I have with my girlfriends. We could not get through this single life, this single era without good girlfriends. And unfortunately, too many of us share the same title of single, but we are having such a great time with each other. So much so that I'm not crying about not having a man. And actually, most of my single friends aren't either. Nah, we're not. We're not crying about not having a man. It's been quite the opposite, especially for me. It's been quite the opposite. I've been grateful for the peace, grateful for the time and the opportunity to do what I want when I want. And I don't have to worry about, when my son was here, I didn't have to worry about him wondering if he was still my priority, because he was my number one priority when he lived here and he was getting through elementary school, getting through middle school, and getting through high school, and now off living on his own, doing his own thing. That was my main priority. And there has actually, since I've been single all this time, and especially since he has left, there is no stress and no worry. The stress and the worry that often comes with relationships. They do. And I'm not saying that all relationships are like this, but there are so many relationships that I'm aware of, that I'm close to, that I'm like, you can have that. I don't want nothing to do with that. If relationships look like that, I'm going to stay single. If relationships look like you putting on social media that everything is perfect and everything is fine, and my man, and he like my girl, but then behind closed doors, off of social, all of this chaos is going on, cheating, financial difficulties, arguing, no on one accord about the kids. Like, it's a lot. It's a lot. So I say all of that to say, be careful what you're following on social media. That's not always what it's cracked up to be. Anyway, am I jaded, or am I just at peace where I am? If I'm honest, I can't tell you that it's 100% peace. But I can say I'm not over here stressing about being in a relationship. And that's great. I'm not stressing about being in a relationship. Now, I do see the value in the relationships that are thriving. My son's grandparents, I'm not sure how long they've been married, but they've been married for a long time. I think he's son's grandfather on his dad's side is, I want to say 85, 86, maybe something like that. And then his grandmother is like 75, 76. They have what I would consider one of the healthiest, most beautiful relationships that I've ever witnessed. So their goals. All right. A lot of things, relationships that I see are not goals. They are goals. All right. But they're also older. They're all so much older. They have a beautiful relationship. Now, I also, see the stress and the turmoil of the ones that are barely hanging on and need to call it quits. And that's what kind of gives me pause. And I'm very cautious as I move through dating and seeing if I want to actually be in a relationship. I move through that very cautiously because I've seen some bad stuff. So suffice it to say that I don't know if I have the energy. I'm being honest. I'm being real on this podcast. I don't know if I have the energy to give it a real shot. And I don't think women should settle for the sake of having a partner. You should not settle for the sake of saying that I have a partner, I have a man. Nobody should. Men shouldn't, women should. Even if that's something that you deeply desire, you should not settle. And when I say settle, let me clarify. When I say settle, I'm not talking about, oh, he doesn't have enough money to be with me kind of thing. Or, she doesn't have enough of the beauty standards to be with me, right? If it's from a man perspective. Now, I will say when it comes to the money, I'm not interested in being anyone in a relationship with anyone who can't take care of themselves. And I have to help them with their finances. I'm not doing that anymore. Been there, done that. Did that with the musician, paid rent for a couple of times for this person. No, we did not live together. I'm not doing that again. All right. Learn my lesson there. So I'm not doing it. But let me tell you what settling is for me. Settling for me is being in a relationship where there is no intellectual chemistry. And what do I mean by that? I mean, being able to have a conversation, right? Being able to talk about things that are exciting to me or maybe interesting to me. And you are excited to learn more about that, or I'm excited to learn more about what it is that you're interested in. But if you ain't really interested in much of anything, instead of just the day in, day out kind of stuff, you don't have a favorite podcast, you don't listen to any podcasts, you don't read, that's going to be hard for me. And I'm not saying you have to be the sharpest knife in the drawer, because I certainly am not. I'm not saying that you have to be this highly intellectual kind of person, because I'm not. But can we have a conversation? Can you converse? Because if not, that's going to be really, really hard. In addition to that, no other shared interest in any other areas. I mean, if I'm being honest, I don't know if I'm interested in immersing myself also in someone else's family. I know it sounds bad, but I'm not sure if I'm really interested in doing that, especially since I really like being by myself. People think that, you just saying that, because it's a protective wall that you have up. No, I really like being by myself. I'm not kidding. I really like my time. I really like my alone time. And maybe that's part of the challenge. I like being alone more than I like hanging out with a lot of people. And I like to hang out with somebody when I feel like it. And most of the time, I don't really feel like it. So maybe that's part of the problem. As I'm talking this through, maybe I'm figuring things out as I'm doing this episode. My friend dated this guy once, a couple years ago. She said they had nothing in common. He made good money. She said he made good money. He worked hard. He had 2 adult kids, but both of those kids lived at home. And she said he was boring. Like kind of what I was talking about before, like the intellectual chemistry. She said he was boring. He wasn't a conversationalist. And she said he had poor grammar, which is also really hard. Now, that's hard for me, not because I'm a snob. It's hard for me because because of the kind of work that I do. The kind of work that I do requires for me to do a lot of networking. And if I'm going to be in a relationship with somebody and they're going to be my +1 to events and the things that I need to go to, I really need for them to have good grammar. That's important to me. Again, you don't have to be a highly intelligent. You don't have to be an intellectual. You don't have to know a little bit or a lot about all different topics. No, but you do need to have good grammar. You do. So that was just an aside, but that's important to me. And she said he had poor grammar. He didn't like to travel. He wasn't into, trying new food. And he didn't like to work out. But he was a great guy, a great guy. And sadly, when you're in your 50s, a guy like this To everyone who thinks that her standards are too high, she's asking for too much, he's such a great catch, and here she is again being too picky. And she gets that, oh, that's why you're single. Nobody's good enough for you. Y'all, that's not fair. That's not fair. And it doesn't make sense. Make it make sense. So she's supposed to be with this guy who doesn't check any of those boxes that are important to her. And they're not superficial. But because she doesn't want to be with this guy because, she would be bored out of her mind. She's not being realistic. Her standards are too high. That's not fair. I've heard the same thing. I've heard the same thing when I've told people, it wasn't a good fit. When they've asked me about certain, relationships. Oh, it wasn't a good fit, right? Guess what, sis? We have the right to not move forward with situations that don't fill our spirit with hope and joy. I'm going to say that again. We have the right to not move forward with situations that don't fill our spirit with hope and joy. And some of these situations would make us absolutely miserable. I'm going to capitalize the M in miserable if we move forward, just for the sake of saying that we had a partner or we had a relationship. I mean, I really want to know what you guys think about this. What are you guys experiencing? I don't mind hearing from the men as well, but this particular episode is just about women and us dating, women in our 50s, and people saying to us, oh, you're being too picky. Oh, you're single because your standards are too high. And really us being out in these streets, really trying to make some things happen, but not trying to force a square peg into a round hole. It's not what I want to do. All right. So, hey, I'm still processing through this thing and I'm trying to find what's going to work for me, what's going to bring me the most peace and the most joy. And for now, y'all, it's being single. It's being single. So that's my podcast for today. That's the episode. I cannot wait for you guys to give me your feedback. Not really on my situation, because that's my situation, but give me your thoughts about dating. What has it been like for you in these single streets? Let's talk about it. This is not the end. This conversation is to be continued, and it might be continued with some of my friends coming on. It might be continued with a male coming on. It will be continued. And until then, I want to make sure that you guys are following The Bright Side of 50 with Carla Palmer. Please like, subscribe, turn on the notifications. Please share the podcast out if it is resonating with you. And even if it's not, maybe there's somebody else that you think might really like this podcast. So please send it to them. Tell them to have a listen to a couple of episodes and let's see what happens, right? We're all in this thing together, trying to live on the bright side of 50 together. Let's build this community. Let's support each other. And let's get this thing popping, okay? All right, guys, I'm going to let you go. Until the next time, I will see you on the bright side of 50 with Carla Palmer. Take care.